Peace and welcome to another episode of ARTdustry, where art meets industry. We are your hosts, Rochelle Etienne Robinson and Stan Substantial Robinson. Season 4 of ARTdustry is powered by Words, Beats, and Life. Peace, and welcome to ARTdustry, where art meets industry. We are your hosts, Rochelle Etienne Robinson and Stan Substantial Robinson. Happy Wednesday, folks. If you are joining us for the very first time, welcome to the ARTdustry podcast, where we interview artists, visual artists, performing artists, and arts administrators and talk to them about their creative journey. If you are returning back, welcome back. We're happy to have you here. Absolutely. Today's guest is Hadiya Williams, a decorative artist and surface designer based right here in the DC area. She is the founder and creative director of Black Pepper Paperie Co. What started out as a hobby-based clay business in 2017 evolved into a full-time decorative art and design studio, specializing in handmade ceramics, surface pattern, design, and wall art. Hadiya has collaborated with a variety of companies all over the world, including Schumacher Co, Lulu and Georgia, Brewster Home, Best Buy, WALPA in Japan, AARP, Meta, and Target. Her design... Oh, clap it up for that. Yes. Okay, sure. She busy. Her design work is also a part of the National Museum of African American History and Culture's permanent collection. Hadiya's work brings art, traditions, and stories together through patterns and handmade techniques that represent her cultural influences across the African diaspora from past, present to future. Please welcome to the show, Hadiya Williams. Hey!
That was great. Thank you.
You are so welcome. Thank you so much for being here. We are so excited because I've been a huge fan. We've seen you in and around the space for the past several years, have seen your growth and development. Matter of fact, had even stopped by Target.
I love it.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
And received some goodies, you know?
Yes, indeed.
So if you are in the area, folks, definitely be sure to check out your girl. Okay.
Yes,
so,
indeed.
Hun, thank you. How are you? First and foremost.
I am doing well. I'm grateful this is at night. You know, usually I'm on Zoom or on some video during the day. So this is nice. I am looking forward to the conversation.
Awesome. Well, we are looking forward to the conversation as well. We've been looking forward to it all day. You know, as we've mentioned before several times, for those of you that are watching us for the very first time, we are a husband and wife duo. This podcast was birthed from the pandemic. We are creatives and we hang out with creatives. Mm-hmm. And what we notice is that a lot of our friends, you know, we may break bread, we know each other, we hang out, but we may not know exactly our friend's path or creative journey or how they got to where they are today. Mm-hmm. And so that's what this is birthed from. And so during the pandemic, how was that? I mean, granted, it's still here, but ish, right. Pandemic light, I guess.
Right.
How was that time for you, you know, as a creative, as a full-time creative?
How did you have to pivot?
Yeah.
Pivot. That was the word, right? So it was very interesting. Best Buy was a big project that I just finished. It actually launched February of 2020. Oh, wow. And I was still working. Graphic design is my background. So I was doing some contract work and that ended in March. And I had gone to South Africa and at the end of February, slid back into the country somehow early, like March 2nd, I got back. And then my contract job ended and I was like, I don't know what the plan is, you know, it ended in the end of March. So by that time, everything had kind of was in the early stages and I had no idea what the plan was. And, you know, so my partner and I were kind of trying to figure out what I was going to be doing with my handmade work, which I had been doing for a few years by then. And June 2nd hits and we all know kind of what that kicked off for Black people around the world, but especially in the US. So this is a funny story, and not funny, but it's interesting in the sense that, we decided we were going to put some of my ceramic work online. I had some wearable art, like, jewelry. And as I was putting it up, it was literally selling as soon as we were just uploading. We were like, oh, we're going to put this up, try to push it out, try to figure out a way to bring in some revenue. And stuff started just, immediately within seconds, it was just going. And so from that point on, I think that was kind of how the next couple of years would look. It was just this influx of interest. It was taxing at times because, no one was really prepared for that to come. So I had to kind of figure out how to keep up with the demand.
Yeah.
What did that look like for me in expanding what I was doing? People reached out to offer me opportunities to do things I hadn't done before, like surface design was something I hadn't done on a professional level. It's something I played around with. So there were all of these challenges creatively for me. There was also the time to kind of explore what I was doing. I spent a lot of time in the home. So it was just a lot. It was a very interesting and sad and emotional, and like on so many levels. It was just a lot happening. So I don't know what you all experienced as well, but there were so many things going on. There's family stuff, there's the creative stuff, there's just the social, just unrest. It was just a lot. So I'm not even talking about the pandemic at this point, but it was
yeah. And so, in scale, when you think of just it's like you said, it's funny and it's sad, it's rewarding, it's also questioning, like I think for us 2020, same thing, like folks wanted to support Black business, and that's it's great, but then keeping up with them, that momentum, because we know, as we all do know, that it's fleeting, right? It's like, yeah, you're all pushing this now, but then after a year and when things open up, then what? How do you continue that momentum? So it definitely, for artists, I've constantly had to pivot and reinvent and do a couple of things.
Yeah, and put together your list of Black businesses to direct your ally friends to.
That part. That part.
Shout out. Shout out to all the allies.
Which was, it was great because I did put out a list because I think we were all trying to figure out what's going on here. And so I did put a list of people that I was connected to, friends, people I admired, and I did put one out. And there was someone I just met in South Africa who was just great. She sold handbags and stuff, and it did major stuff. She got a lot of business, because I remember reaching out to her and trying to figure out how I could help, because South Africa got hit really hard, especially because it's a big tourist, like where especially what she was doing was big on tourism, and she got hit hard. So I reached out. She's like, well, you can just support my shop and, buy a couple things. So I did buy some things, but then when I posted, she got an influx of buys, which was really good for her. Of course, then there's the demand, because so it had its pluses and minuses, but that was one example of that list, for a lot of us, that those lists that went around, because I'm still trying to figure out now how some people found out about me, but
Right. Well, we're going to get into it. Because we want to talk about, I know we mentioned before with the products, so we'll definitely get into that later on. But we want to go back. Let's go back. You were born and raised in Washington, D.C., studied graphic design at Columbia College in Chicago, currently a full-time artist. But what was your first introduction to the arts? Was it visual arts or was it performing arts?
Oh, that's a good question. Maybe visual, just from the sheer fact of like my mom having stuff in the home. She was a social worker, and she would go to conferences and travel and stuff, and she would always bring stuff back. She would have Black art, she had textiles and stuff like that. So to me, that counts as art. It's maybe not fine art, it wasn't, but it was still just seeing this work in the home, which had a great influence on me. Music, of course, I was always like, music is, I think, is probably our first, like everyone, like you're hearing music from the beginning. So that's very influential to me as well. The records and performing, because I'm in DC, and then it was like chocolate city. So and Howard, we were always going to Crampton Auditorium to see performances. I was in dance classes with it's called Footsteps now, but I think it was Dance Place before Dance Place. I think that's what it was called back then. And so I was performing, like The Wiz is my favorite film, because I performed in The Wiz when I was like, 9 in that, and I'll never forget that, because I didn't stay with the dance program, but that performance still to this day is one of the most influential pieces of art that I've ever experienced. So
yeah, because it encompasses everything that you do, right? So it's like, it's fashion, it's jewelry. I mean, it's beautiful fashion. It's dance, it's performance art, it's scenery. So yeah,
and it's the 70s.
And it's the 70s.
What else do you need, right?
Right. Absolutely. So you mentioned before, your background is in graphic design. So how did that begin?
I was at Bowie State University, my HBCU, my beloved HBCU, and I took some classes in like my junior year. I took computer graphics classes. It wasn't called graphic design because it was primarily set up to support the fine arts department. So it wasn't a design program, but they had classes you could take. So you can learn how to take your fine art to the computer. But I was a major in computer science. So it was just an elective for me. And I fell in love with it though. And we weren't learning design. We were just learning how to use the software. But I jumped in, and there were some artists in the class. So, bonded with them. And then the next semester I became a TA. So I was helping, new students come in. And so I just started messing around with Adobe and teaching myself more. And then we had a blizzard that year. And I was snowed in. And it's funny. I always talk, Maxwell was like part of my career, because Maxwell was, this was like the late 90s. And he was big, and he had all of this art online, which to me sounds really strange now, because I'm like thinking this was over 20 years ago, and the internet played a big part in that, just downloading his images and creating album covers and magazine covers. And so continuing to learn the software. And then I graduated in graphic design. Graduated in computer science, worked for Verizon, but I was still doing design on the side, just any chance I could get to, offer somebody a CD cover, like Camber, Al Green. I did his very first CD cover. This was back then. If he I know he remembers that, but like stuff like that, and friends and people who I knew who were doing stuff, I would do that. I think I even got an internship working at a company. And, in DC, you get internships in the government all the time. But, I was using their, like, the word-based, publishing. That's what it was called, publishing. I was like, can I do your brochures? I'm here to do something technical, but I'm like, can I do your brochure? So it was that, and kind of finding any way I can to use the software I was learning. And then I worked at Verizon for a couple of years. They had a huge layoff in 2002. They laid off like 10,000 people.
Oh, wow.
And so I got laid off, thankfully, because I didn't like, software engineering was not me. I did it because, I studied computer science because it was the 90s. I didn't have anything that I wanted to study in particular. So I just jumped into computers. But I got the opportunity to go back to school after that. So that's when I went to Columbia College, and they had a second bachelor's degree program for people like me who had already gotten their degree, but they wanted to do graphic design. And Columbia College is an open admission school, so you didn't have to have a background in graphic design or art to get admitted. They had to see potential, and you got in. But it's a wonderful school. It's a really, really beautiful school. A lot of great people have graduated from there. I'm sorry, I need to drink some water, but
It's all good.
the filmmakers from Love Jones, like they attended. That's one of the and Soul Food because it's in Chicago. So
Yeah.
they all graduate from Columbia. So I went there and got my degree in graphic design, my BFA, and I worked for 20 years as a graphic designer. And so
Wow.
That's awesome.
that story. And I loved it. And now I'm working for myself, and I love where it led me. So yeah.
Blessings upon blessings.
That's
Shout out to all of the great schools that you mentioned, from your experiences with Howard University, from going on their campus to
Bowie
State. Spent some time over there, like for multiple different projects, and then and Columbia as well. Columbia Arts out in Chicago. Like one of the events, me and Elgin, I think me and Marcus Steve, we got to visit that school. It's a really great school. Yeah, shout out to them too. While we're talking about graphic design, though, I'm gonna hold you for a second. Do you remember? Because I was a graphic design major as well at Pratt, and do you remember your first freelance job? First paid freelance job, and what was like the biggest takeaway from that experience?
That's a big one.
First pay. Gosh, I'm sure I'll miss something, but my biggest first was the annual report for my mom's organization. I got the job fair and square, but I had to still, put in the bid for it. But but I did their annual report, and this was while I was still at Columbia, so I was still in school. And the biggest takeaway was to get a proof. That was my biggest takeaway of the print job, because the print job came out and it was really washed out. I wasn't happy with it. And they had a printer that they had been working with for years, and or not years, but they had a printer, and I just didn't have a relationship with them, and I didn't know what to look for, what to ask for. So the final product came, and I was, of course they're like, "This is what you sent us." I'm like, "This doesn't look right." So learning that at that point to, be more involved with that process, which, of course, when I started working full time, I learned really well all of that stuff. But
was it a RGB versus CMYK issue?
It probably was. We did a 2-color Pantone.
Oh, Pantones, yeah.
Yeah, and I probably thought I knew what I was doing, but I don't know that I had actually done. You do stuff in school, but I don't know that I had ever done anything to print outside of the print lab at school. So that was a big lesson, working with 2-color Pantones. So
that's dope. Definitely. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, I think that's very important. To piggyback on with graphic design, you went from, in addition to doing like annual reports, to doing invitations, and then you sort of transitioned, right? So you started your company, Black Pepper Paperie, and then where you blend, you wanted to blend your design as well as your culture. What lessons have you learned now for being a business owner?
Like, this is a touchy subject. I'm still learning. I am still in the throes of learning. Get help.
Say that again.
I'm still working on getting the right help. Because with it migrating or moving from hobby, which I think a lot of people are experiencing, you move from this thing you're doing for fun to like, oh, let me turn this into a business. And a lot of us haven't studied business or don't necessarily know. Some people naturally will be good at it, right? So, but a lot of people aren't, especially creative people. We tend to, at least for me, I'm very much go with the flow, or I am used to working alone, especially even with graphic design. You work on teams, but for a while I've been kind of working on my own. So even with it being my business and me doing it as starting out as a hobby base, I just, I started doing things like even starting with Etsy. It seems very accessible. So you do what's accessible and you do that. But as you continue to evolve and grow, learning how to bring in the right people to fill in those gaps where you may not know what you're doing is key. That's what helps you grow. So I am still getting that part worked out because it's like now I know I need, I need an assistant. I'm trying to keep up with the emails and all of the administrative stuff, and it becomes a lot. So I'm thankful for my studio manager, my partner, who's been helping me with that. But really bringing in someone who I'm paying to do this and really help. So
yeah. Yeah. No, it's so important. I mean, that's one of the things why we do this is because to show folks and to, because we're still learning as well. Like,
100%. 100%. Lifetime
with consulting, it's the same thing. It's like, it's granted it's two of us, but even with two of us, we're still like, we base it on we work based on our strengths.
Yeah.
But even then, like it's still, it still requires multiple hands. Multiple hands make light work, is what they say, right?
Yeah. It's definitely, it's one of those things that, like, I think no matter how much we learn, there's always more to learn.
Yeah.
And so I think what you're talking about now for anyone listening or watching is really important to understand that. No matter how, like I always joke, I'm not joking when I say it, but I always call myself a black of all trades, right? And while it's great to be to have multiple skill sets and know how these different things work, it still doesn't replace having a team, and having people that allow you to focus on certain things when you need to just kind of lock into the one, maybe two things, as opposed to trying to do 15. So
which is a great segue.
Yes. Yeah.
As a multidisciplinarian,
yes.
You've worked, as we've mentioned before, graphic design, you've worked in ceramics, textiles, jewelry, etc. How has your work evolved from, doing graphic design work to doing the ceramics and surface design? How did that come to be?
So, how did that come to be? Well, the ceramics came hobby. I took a class at District Clay, which is now it's like 5 minutes from where I live, but I took it was a workshop, 2-hour workshop with a friend of mine, and that was great, but I wanted to do more with it. And this was in February 2017. So it was a very stressful time for a lot of us in the US. Inauguration had just happened, and kind of wanting something to add some joy, kind of keep me a little busy. So I started working with polymer clay at home. And this is all while I'm still, working full time. So this is kind of really just fun, something to do. But using my background in graphic design, my understanding of form and line and function and composition, and taking it to this new form of clay. So polymer clay you can bake in your oven. So it's something that I could do at home. And so it was just, I'm just constantly, looking at, YouTube videos and finding, things that I could use this clay to make and ways that I can use what I have, in my kitchen. Like, with polymer clay, you can use a glass bowl to make to make a bowl shape. So it was very, very accessible. And when I was able to, I took classes at the Art League in Alexandria, Virginia. And those classes, they have tons of art classes there if anyone's looking for a place to take classes in any kind of art form. They do fiber arts, calligraphy, sculpture, you can work with clay. So I took a class there, and I learned how to work with ceramics on it, just taking a full 10-week class and really learning how to work with clay, use the kiln, work with glazes. And but in the meantime, I was sharing my work on Instagram. My polymer clay work, I was sharing on Instagram. And I actually did a 100-day challenge. I'm skipping all over because there's of course this linear, or maybe not, maybe it was all happening at the same time in my head, but I did a 100-day challenge, and it was a creative challenge that's still going on now, but 100 days of something, primarily creative, right? But it could probably be 100 days of anything. And you just share something every day that you've done. So I did 100 days of black and white, and I was doing different things in black and white, trying out at this surface design at the time. I didn't really have an idea of what I was going to do every day, but I wanted to test it out and see what I could do with the black and white. So it was clay sometimes. Sometimes it was, pen on paper. Sometimes it was something I saw on the street, some kind of composition or building. And I did that. And it took me a whole year to finish, but I did finish in 100 days. And the last thing I did was I painted a friend's wall in her home. And that was beautiful. And it was something I didn't think I could do, because the wall she had like maybe 10-foot wall. So it was pretty big compared to what I had been doing before. And so that actually helped me figure out what I was doing, because even when I started, I wanted to, I skipped over something else. I was trying to start a stationery design business. So I worked on a big wedding for a friend of mine, and I wanted to take this concept of working with stationery design, doing weddings, doing events, and turn that into a business. And so, so this is, this project here is really special, but this is similar to what I was doing, but I didn't have a branding figured out. I didn't have an idea of what I wanted to do with that, with the look and feel of that business. So by the end of the 100 days, though, I had gone completely away from stationery design into clay. But so Black Pepper Paperie comes from this idea of working with paper, doing stationery design. And so even though I moved into clay, I have worked paper back in. I didn't end up doing stationery design, but I am doing something, working for myself, and creating, stuff that brings some joy to people's homes and to their lives. So I left out a few things because it's a long story that sometimes I can tell it in the proper order, and sometimes I forgot this happened too. But
no, that's fine, because we're gonna actually get to that's the slide that we just showed, with the invitation. If you actually could go back to it. So in 2018, you were among 5 artists in what was called the Makers in the Mansion. And it was an exhibit that was held at the Woodlawn Pope Lehigh Mansion right here in Alexandria. So you created this beautiful, and we can attest this because we were actually live and direct. We got to see it in person, and this photo, as beautiful as it doesn't give it justice, you created this beautiful table setting. Well, I'll let you tell the story, but it was a beautiful table setting where you created not only the ceramics, but the textiles and, the invitations. But who were the invitations for? Can you tell us about that experience?
Yes. So this was a project that I was recommended by Nicole Crowder, who's a great friend of mine. And she was invited to be one of the artists, and she recommended me to the director there. And so I brought in my good friend Risaket Okadei, who is brilliant, and because I knew I wanted to do something special. So they gave me the dining room. So the dining room in the home of, so Woodlawn Pope Lehigh is a historic house. It used to be a plantation. It was gifted to Nellie, gosh, I forgot her last name, but George Washington and Martha Washington's granddaughter. They gifted her this plantation when she got married, along with 100 enslaved Black people. And so they had this massive, it was, I don't know, it was like 100 acres, 150 acres at the time, maybe more than that. It was a huge plantation. And so now it's a historic house. And so they did this project where they wanted to bring in Black artists to, I guess, to commemorate the enslaved people that used to build and create the furniture. There's the clock they still have that was made by one of the formerly enslaved people there. But so they brought us in the dining room. You know, I think they were just like kind of thinking it would be something really small. They, you know, you have this dining space, you can do something nice, create a little bit for the table. But I knew I wanted it to be really, I wanted I wanted it to be moving. I wanted it to be for the enslaved people that served in that house. Like this space, you know, I wanted it to be something special. So I brought Kat in, Rissy Cat, and we decided to make this an altar room. So this whole room was going to serve as an altar to those people. We set the table to serve them. So the invitations were, you know, it was, the concept was that they were invited to sit down. But when you look at the invitations, there were menu cards and then there was place cards. And so the menu cards had what was happening in the country with slavery, and the place cards had what was happening on the plantation during that time, because the information that they gave us was kind of this, like, you know, they were highlighting all of these things that happened on this land, and it was almost very light and airy, and it was like, yeah, but this was happening in the country, right? And so, and also, you know, you had these people who were enslaved here, so we wanted to make sure that was not overlooked and not, you know, that was acknowledged, because this is a historic house and they celebrate the house as George Washington's granddaughter's home, but not necessarily acknowledging all that came with it. So even dismissing, like, you know, removing the word plantation and wanting it to call it a house. And it was like, we were like, no, we're going to bring this all to light. You know, I think all of the artists did that in their own way. So, but yeah, so this room, if you can tell me how you felt, but, you know, people really were moved by it. And, you know, a few tears were shed, and, you know, some people were upset. People who came to tour the home were like, what is this? You know, because they're seeing all of the work, but it brought up some emotion, and that was the point. And it was one of the most transformative projects I've done so far.
No, you did a fantastic job. I mean, I still remember it to this day, and that's why I was scouring Google trying. I was like, oh, I know that we had pictures, but I couldn't find it. And you know, it was of course obviously in 2018, but I just remember thinking, first of all, the textiles, like that's what, and the fact that you hand painted, right? The runner, the table runner, and the napkins, like everything was so intentional and well thought out, and it was really like giving them a seat, literally a seat at the table. And so I think you did a fantastic job. And I was like, all I kept on thinking is, so is this available for purchase? I was like, it was so good. I was like, the way that it was done and it displayed, I was like, oh, this needs to be for sale. And we'll talk more about that. But it was just, oh my God. And I know you have your thoughts on it.
Yeah,
too.
no, it was definitely a dope experience. You know, I mean, Shell pretty much said it all, but like, I really didn't know much about what, like, Shell is the team researcher, like not just for the show, but for most things that we do as a family. I'm more of the budget guy, trying to figure out how we're going to get there, logistics, you know what I mean? So she, you know, when she told us about it, I mean, it's art, it's us, you know what I mean? It's our people. Yeah, we're showing up. And I think as much as she kind of prepped me for what we were going to see, like just seeing it in person and experiencing it. And it was amazing. Like I was a fan. So yeah, man, it was dope.
Yeah, that was great. And then we spent so much time there. So being on that land, especially at night, that was there a couple of times at night, and it's like it's pitch black.
Yeah.
But you just, you know, we felt an energy that was really strong. So yeah, that was a really special project.
Sure.
So.
Well, you did well. You did well.
Yeah. So real quick, we're gonna take a quick break because we got bills to pay. And so quick shout out to Words Beats in Life. So we're gonna bring Miss Hadiya Williams back in a second. Everyone hold tight, don't go anywhere. We're gonna talk about some things because hip hop's turning 50. All right, so everyone hold tight 1 second, and we'll be back with more Hadiya Williams.
All right.
All right, so family, we're gonna do it a little different today because even though of course, Words Beats in Life has an amazing academy where they focus on hip hop education. Young people can learn everything from breaking, graffiti art, music production, DJing, MCing, songwriting, college prep, you name it. But this week we're celebrating 50 years of hip hop. You see it in the background. It's me. It's me. You know what I mean? My wife literally, when she's trying to get my attention sometimes and I'm zoned out, she'll just say hip hop, and then I look up
and he'll snap back.
Right, and then she just tells me like, we got bills. I'm like, oh word, okay. But anyway, so we're celebrating 50 years of hip hop, and we wanted to take a moment just to let you know about these amazing events that are being thrown this week by our sponsor, Words Beats in Life. So let's get these up on the screen so you can see the goings on. So first and foremost, on hip hop's actual birthday, August 11th, for those who didn't know, August 11th, 1973 was when that pivotal block party happened, a basement party in the Bronx, hosted by Kool Herc and his sister. All right, and so we're celebrating hip hop's birthday with some hip hop karaoke that's being thrown on Friday, August 11th. It starts at 9 p.m. 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. is the karaoke. It's going to be at Art Wino. If you've never been, it's an amazing venue. Check it out. You get some great food, some dope drinks. You also get some amazing art and some live entertainment. So come through, rap your heart out, and don't mess up lyrics to songs that everyone should know. Because it's hip hop's birthday and we might have to take your hip hop card, gun and badge immediately. All right. And then the next event we got going on. All right. We're celebrating hip hop, 50 years of hip hop in the DMV in DC, Maryland, Virginia. We're doing that at the Lincoln Theater. We got performances by, this guy right here with 2 thumbs named Substantial. I'll be doing my thing, Odyssey, and his band Good Company. We also got legendary hip hop artist Nonchalant, one of the DMV's pioneers for women in hip hop. She'll be performing live, as well as Question Mark Asylum. If you don't know who they are, they're one of the first acts from this area to put on globally for hip hop, and even had remixes of their songs by legendary hip hop producer Eric Sermon. This was in the early 90s, so shout out to Question Mark Asylum. We got legend DJ Cool will be there. Let me clear my throat, come through. You know what it is. So we got him. We got Priest the Nomad. We got Asheru, the brother who's responsible for the theme of the Boondocks, is one of DC's own. He will be performing. We got YU, one of my favorite artists from this area.
The Voice.
Yeah, man. XO will be performing as well. I know I'm forgetting other people. Prowess.
Priest.
I said Priest. Prowess the Testament will be rocking, holding it down for women in hip hop. Definitely a superior MC, going to be straight spitting.
Godzilla.
And Godzilla will be joining my brothers from another mother. I think they keep adding people. It's hard to keep up. It's going to be amazing. If you're not here this Saturday, if you're not here at this event and you say you love DMV hip hop, I got my doubts. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. So you got to come through. All right. And then this event, to close things out this weekend, we got Fine Lines Paint Jam. That's going to be happening at the Bridge Spot. That is off of Virginia Avenue, 199 Virginia Ave. Come through. It's happening August 13th from noon to 8 p.m. Come through, make some art with us. You'll be joined by amazing graffiti artists. If you're a graph artist yourself, come through, bring your book, black book, you know what it is. Bring some fat markers, bring some cans. Let's get it in. It's going to be great. So again, this is all brought to you by Words Beats in Life. Shout out to them and the amazing work they continue to do in the community. And yeah, anything you want to add?
You don't want to miss it. It's going to be good.
Yeah,
It's going to be good.
It's going to be super dope. So yeah, man. On that note, we're going to get back to our show and bring back our amazing guest, Hadiya Williams. All right. Yes.
Hi.
Hey. So we're going to transition just a tidbit. You had mentioned that you've traveled to South Africa. In addition to that, you've been to Venice recently, Nicaragua, Lisbon, as well as many, many other destinations. Yes, many stamps on your passport card. What destination out of all the places that you've been has brought you the most joy?
South Africa. I mean, it's funny because I joke about how, I seem like I have traveled a ton, but I have not. So like, it's in the past few years that I've really kind of been like pushing myself to get out there and go to places that I really want to go to. But South Africa was one of the most memorable experiences I've had. Just, especially just going to this country that had, the people were beautiful, the land, the style. Like I think South Africa, I see some of the flyest stuff come out of there. So and I went with a good friend of mine, Chantrell Lewis, who I think I don't know if she had been before, but anyway, we both had, it's just so wild that we went right before the pandemic because so much has changed, and not having been able to travel for a while, it was one of those things that I was really glad I was able to do at the time that I did. But I was ready to move back when I got back, before the pandemic had really kicked off. I was looking at schools. I'm like, okay, so how do I get back to South Africa in a longer term? Which I hear that quite often. People who go either like try not, they're like they go back and they stay for a long time. So yeah,
was that your first time on the continent?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was. So I definitely have a list of places that I would love to go. But I'm glad that I was able to go there. Cameroon is on my list because that's my matrilineal lineage. I did African ancestry, and it connects there, which there are a lot of Cameroonian people that come up. Bamaleke is my my group. So yeah, so that's on my list, and Senegal and Nigeria and Ghana and all the great
all the places.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Tanzania.
Yeah. No, so that's awesome that you bring up African ancestry. Like we talk about that type of research all the time, and try to track our DNA and different things. So I know that you've been researching your family lineage. As one who believes artistic practice is passed down, have you discovered a design or art style that has been passed down that you weren't aware of in your work before?
Definitely when I looked at the Bamaleke people, I saw something even in the way that the color was used, and they're the sculptures that they have in the royal kind of I don't know if it's called a palace, but and they're these beaded sculptures, and the way that they color block those sculptures, I felt really connected to. I was like looking at some of that. I'm like, that looks like something I was doing. And so it felt like there was a connection there.
Yeah.
Because I do feel like there is some sort of like cultural memory that exists.
Absolutely.
We know it exists with music and dance, but I don't know that we speak about it so much with visual art. But yeah, I definitely think there was something that I was connected to, that I was already doing, that showed up. So yeah.
No, that's amazing. I love that. I read that about you, that you cultural memory, and how things pass down, and how certain things like you do that you know, it's like, wow, when you look back, or something that you say, if you're a singer, if you're a dancer, like certain things, how that passes down. It's just, it's amazing to see that, you know, you could be so far removed from it, but physically, but it's still, it's a part of your DNA.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just,
in the
it's there. It's in your
subconscious.
subconscious, right? Now, you have partnered with, you know, as we mentioned before, you know, with Best Buy, we talked about Target, Schumacher for wallpaper products. You know, you are able to navigate both the fine art space because you do have product in the museum, the African American History Museum, but you also have product available in stores. For some, not all, but for some artists, you know, some folks are just like, no, I just do fine arts. Some artists are like, well, you know, hey, if an opportunity strikes, then yeah,
Right.
I'm going to go for it. How do you reconcile the two? Because again, some folks, you know, are very much, no, this is my lane.
I don't work
It,
for the man,
I don't
son.
work for, exactly. I don't work for the man. Some feel like it might diminish the art. What do you say? What say you?
What say I? I say I don't know. I say that I I think for me, fine art tends to be, I think that's where we would see ourselves the most when it comes to visual art. And so as a um graphic design is very anonymous work. It doesn't have to be, but it tends to be. Even uh Lois Maylou Jones,
Mm-hmm.
she is somebody that I look at. I look at her career, and she started out, she went to art school, but then she became a textile designer for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And and this was during like the late 20s, 30s. And so her work was very anonymous because, for one, she was a Black woman, but also because she was designing for, like, Schumacher was one of the companies she did work for. And so she decided she didn't want to be anonymous anymore, and she wanted to be known for her work. So she moved into fine art. And I think that's how a lot of us see the visibility. It's in the fine art. So we tend to gravitate toward wanting to be in adjacent or in fine art somehow. And I think I had that same experience, but the more I got into my career and the more that it's evolving, excuse me, I call myself a decorative artist, which, it's in the arts, but it's not fine art per se. And it involves basically the creation of either home decor or functional art. So wallpaper, the ceramic objects, the textiles, all of that falls within the decorative arts. Furniture design. And so that feels more like home to me. That feels more like what I am doing. And I do add wearable art in there because it is, you're decorating yourself, you're decorating the body. So I feel like that is the lane that I found, even though I try not to box myself in, but it's nice to kind of have figured that out. Because like you said, it's something that is, it's a contentious topic for people. Some fine artists would have an issue with you selling your work in a retail capacity, even though the museum shop may put, they'll put artist work on stuff for the museum shop. But if you're just
Right.
selling it yourself or selling it on your website, even though we see more people doing that now, I see a lot of artists, like Kehinde Wiley is one that now you see his stuff on a lot of different products, which is cool. It makes it accessible. But
Exactly.
and that
Exactly.
is what I want for my work. That's a big challenge for me. It's like wanting it to be accessible, but also know that I'm growing, and as I grow, my work, the cost, the value goes up. So how do I make
Yeah.
sure that people can get it and it not be something that, is not attainable? And Target was a big part of that for me too, because everybody could go and get, the $4 plates, and it's
Yeah.
still, it's my work. People are asking me to sign it, like, can you
Yeah.
sign my plate? So
Right.
I
I
love
love that. Oh.
Need you sign my mug. I'm never gonna drink out of it again.
But I mean, what you
That's
said is
awesome.
so important, making it accessible, because not everybody can afford a $10,000 painting,
Yeah, for sure.
but maybe I can afford a $10 plate or print, because I still want beauty. I still want to surround myself with beauty.
Yeah.
But And I don't think it, me, at least personally speaking, I don't think it diminishes the art or brings the quality down because, again, it's still coming from the artist.
Yeah.
And I agree with you wholeheartedly when you talk about, graphic design being, you could be very anonymous. And some people would like that, they prefer. But others, I could see how, it's like, okay, when you see your stuff in the stores and you're like, wait a minute, my name is not on it, but I
Right.
did it,
Yeah.
So, no, I definitely,
Yeah,
agree.
it's funny. Like as a fellow graphic designer, like I have never heard anyone word it that way. Like when you were like talk about the work as being anonymous, but the moment you said it, like I flashed back to, like it clicked. Like I was like, wow, and to a point where like this is a quick story. Like I'm on a trip with this school that I worked with for several years. And I helped the school rebrand. Like I did their logos. I designed what the basketball court looked like so many things I did for them. And like I just saw the branding so much that after a while you just kind of get disconnected from it. And so we were on a trip. The kids show up and the guy, shout out to my man Victorious, he sees the logo like posted up on something, like they recreated our logo and had it on something. And when he just can't separate it from me because he knew that I did it.
Right.
But like I'm just walking in oblivious. He's like, bro, like you don't feel something when you see your work like that, like and I was just like, oh yeah, I did do that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like so, yeah. But the way you worded that, like I never heard anyone say it like that. But that's real. That's very real.
It's something that I don't, I'm sure, people talk about it, but in that way where like you don't think about it. I mean, I think it's the same for a lot of design in general.
Yeah.
Unless, especially if you're working for a firm or in-house, but even if you're designing for, like, I mean, it could be anything. You have to even sometimes ask for them to like add your name to like the little teeny byline in the credits of like, but that's the first thing that people are presented with when they're encountering something that has, some kind of visual element. Is that design, and that's what people will remember, and that's what draws them in. But that tends to be anonymous in a lot of ways, and so some people are getting better about it, especially as social media, has become such a big part of our lives. So definitely.
Wow. Well, let's talk about scaling because you mentioned before how it went from being a hobby to now becoming a thriving business. What were the steps that you took to go from having literally having your pieces, just doing it for yourself? Granted, you went to school for it, you practiced the craft, you worked on your development. And then granted, it's not like, you're in class 1 minute and then you're in the museum the next. What were the steps that you took that got you from this to next to next?
Gosh, it was very organic. A lot of it had to do with me sharing my work. That's the biggest thing that I've done for myself. Because back to the anonymity of graphic design, with this, it was like, oh, I'm having fun. I'm creating this object and I'm sharing it online. And it wasn't with the intent to draw in anyone, but it was just with the intent to share because I liked what I was doing. And, the more I shared, the more people wanted to see more. And so that was earlier to me in the prime of Instagram, it was when it was at this phase where they hadn't figured out how to monetize it the way they have now. And so it was all very organic. So like a lot of my work that the projects I've gotten have all been from people just finding me online. So, which has been a blessing. I won't, I will definitely acknowledge that. Like it's, definitely me doing work that people are drawn to, but me sharing it and, people seeing it and wanting to work with me and to, have my work, in their stores. And so, I've been in the National Museum of Women in Arts. had stuff. They were like, Milani actually, when she started there, she was like, we gotta get you in our store. So that was really wonderful, and kind of putting my earlier pieces in there, having them sold there, and Shop Made in DC, Nubian Human. People reached out to me from different places around the country, the Ogden Museum, and is that in Louisiana, New Orleans, and so even with scale, like I'm still working on that because I still make my stuff by hand. So what has been really great for me is getting these collaborations where they cover all the costs, and I get to do what I do, but it's a collaboration, and I don't have to necessarily produce, but I am working on that part for myself now, like trying to figure out how to create my own line of things that I can sell at a much larger scale, because that's something I would really love to do. And I am working with someone now. I won't talk about it yet, but working with someone, and we're building a small collection. So that is the start of that, which I'm really excited about. But yeah, it's been really great, and the collaborations have been really, really helpful with being able to scale without me having to put my own money into it. It's big, like getting capital, getting funding to be able to build is tough, and that's a skill as well. It's like being able to raise money and to expand in that way. So
no,
does
that's
that answer your
great.
question?
Okay. Yeah, no, you got it.
Yeah, for sure. So before we talk about like what's next for you, really want to know, like, how has the arts impacted your life?
The arts, wow. I mean, I'm like, where would I be without the arts? I've been a creative person all my life. I didn't realize it really, because I didn't focus on art in school or anything. But when I did create stuff, it was always memorable. Like, even I always think about high school, when I took an art class in high school. And if you know the DC music, like I did some album covers again, and I drew them with like color pencil, and it was like Junkyard Band. I did like JYB, and it was like a brick wall and fire or whatever. And I did a couple of album covers, and my teacher put them in the glass case, and somebody stole them out the glass case. So like, even so, like, just thinking about how art has played a big role, like coloring. I love coloring. I love fashion. Like, I just like style. Growing up, my mom had these books that it was like a book for like different shapes of women, but they had all these figures of women in them, and then they had all these clothes, and I would play with those all day long, just like mixing and matching and putting together and like tracing them, and building these women and kind of putting different clothes. I love yearbooks growing up. Like, I would look at my mother's yearbook, and my cousin, he went to H.D. Woodson, and I would look at his yearbook like every day, all the time, just going through, looking at the superlatives, and just it was something about the publication and the photos and the style, and just really being into that. Like I said, my mother brought Black art home, Black books, and being in DC, just being surrounded by culture and art on so many different levels was so important to my development, just in how I look at art. I think it's a special place. I'm sure a lot of people say that about their city, but like DC was really instrumental in, how I look at art and style. So.
Dope. Well, that is that time in the show where we have our rapid fire questions before we leave you. So it's 5 questions.
Okay.
No pressure.
But before we do that, though, like, what's next for you?
Oh yeah, of course. I was going to do that, but that's fine.
What's next? I've been working with which is a contentious topic, but I have been working with Midjourney. So I've been creating these images, and I'm working on taking some of those images and bringing them to life. So that's a big part of what I'm trying to do. I have another collection coming out next year with one of the collaborators I'm working with that I'm excited about. I have a big project. I can't even say, so I don't even know why I brought it up, but something big is coming next year in the fall.
You're tempted to give us the exclusive.
I know.
Exclusive, and it's, we appreciate it, but don't get yourself in trouble.
Really big and wonderful.
Awesome.
As a designer and a somebody who loves culture, Black culture. So I'm excited about that. But like I said, there's another collaboration that I'm working on with another small business. All these things I feel like I can't mention because I haven't discussed mentioning them. So So just in that to say, there's some wonderful things coming up, and just continuing to build. So
yes, and we'll continue to support.
You already know.
Please do.
Right. Yeah, we'll drink to that. So before we let you go, we're going to jump into these rapid fire questions.
Okay.
You want to set it off?
I'll set it off.
Okay.
I'll set it off. So, born and bred in DC. Stan and I are very much foodies. We love food. We love to eat food. We love good food. But there's also, DC has some staples that are in the area that most of us, I think, have frequented. And if those of you who haven't, you should. So it's this or that. Okay. You have to pick one of the two.
No pressure.
No pressure. Ben's Chili Bowl or Horace and Dickey's?
Horace and Dickey's.
Okay.
Okay.
All
right.
Good.
She didn't even have to think.
She didn't. She was like, "Oh, that's not even a question.
Easy.
That's not even." Yeah. Okay.
All right. Next up, Elizabeth Catlett or Alma Thomas.
Oh Lord. You're making me choose.
Turning up the heat.
So for those of you that don't know, these are two prominent Black female artists, both, if not from originally DC, but they lived in DC. Yeah.
Oh Lord. I'm gonna say Elizabeth Catlett because she's from my childhood. So yeah.
Okay.
All right. So I'll let you take this one because yes, as a graphic designer, Lord have mercy.
From one font snob to another, because I'm sure you feel a way about fonts as a graphic designer. What's the font that you hate most? And then what's the font that you love the most? What's your favorite?
I'll say Papyrus. Who loves Papyrus? Everybody loves it, but graphic designers.
Yeah.
That is so true. Oh my God.
It's a go-to for people who, trying to add a certain flair to what they're doing. But
right.
I feel so seen.
Oh my.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But favorite, gosh, it's funny because I'm supposed to be rapid, right? I don't.
You good?
I don't have a favorite. I'll say what I use a lot because I use the internet a lot now. But Montserrat. But I use the internet and Canva and I'm like quick. Let me something that's clean and can get the job done, and I know it'll look good. So
right. Yeah, that's my go-to as well. That's crazy. Yeah, Shell knows.
Oh,
this is why. Look, when she asked me for a question, I was like, "Look, graphic designer. Come on, fine."
I already knew. Oh Lord. So next one. If you had to choose only one to do for the rest of your life, right? Ceramics or graphic design? Which would it be? Ceramics. Okay.
Your graphic design stresses me out sometimes.
Oh.
Can I just be done already?
Oh my. If I could show you this email of edits I gotta do, oh my God. I feel you. I feel so seen right now. Oh my God. So, because hip hop is celebrating its 50th birthday on Friday, I gotta ask. It's mandatory. The hip hop delegation has come to me and asked me to ask you, what is your top 5?
All right.
Lord.
So, top 5. So I'll say Tribe Called Quest is up there.
Okay.
I would say Native Tongues, but definitely Tribe Called Quest. I remember writing songs down from them. Like I can visualize that. I'm not like a super hip hop head, so my list is gonna be very
it's cool.
No pressure.
Like, judgment free
zone. But Salt and Pepper, they were probably my number one. Like I remember being a little girl, and
yes,
that was it for me. Salt and Pepper.
Dope.
So my problematic fave, Snoop.
I feel you. Oh,
it was
he's hard not to like though. His likability is so he'll do some wild, like say some wild disrespectful stuff and then do something. It's just like, man, how can you not like this guy?
So definitely Outkast. This is not in any order. Outkast for sure. I just remember when Southern Playalistic dropped, and I spent the entire summer. I listened to nothing else but that. I remember my summer job at SYEP, and Kendrick Lamar. I loved him. Especially the early days. Those were, the Good Kid, Mad City. And To Pimp a Butterfly. And that's like early for me. I know that's not his earliest stuff, but
it's all good. I wasn't gonna call you out.
I know. I was like, let me
I was like, okay, okay.
Let me clarify for
I'll allow it, right?
for the hip hop heads, right. For the delegation, so they don't come for you. Lord. Oh my goodness.
We're gonna clap it up for that. That was a good list.
Okay.
It was.
Like I like it because you got variety in there.
Yep.
Right. You got women and men represented.
You got some throwbacks.
Yeah, you got some throwbacks. You got some modern artists. Then you also got like East Coast, West Coast. You're down south. You know what I mean? It's
it's well rounded.
It's a well rounded, respectable list. You know what I mean? We clap it up for that. There we go. Well, thanks for playing with us. We appreciate you making time for us.
Hadiya, this was great. Thank you so much. I think this was very insightful. We love learning about your creative journey, your process. Like we said, we will continue to support you, and y'all continue to support her. Available in Target. Okay.
Thanks. I appreciate you all so much. This was fun.
No, thank you.
Thanks for the heads up on that list. But
No problem. Oh, gosh. Well, y'all, thank y'all so much for joining us. Again, if you are new to the show and you liked what you heard or you saw, please be sure to like and subscribe. This wraps up our season 4.
Final episode of the season. Thank everybody for tuning in. And we're going to let Hadiya go right now, but y'all stick around for a brief minute because we just want to give you heads up on some things before we close out. But thank you so much again, sis.
Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.
All right. So, family, before we let you go, we just wanted to give you heads up on something. Another quick reminder about these upcoming events from Words, Beats, and Life. First and foremost, make sure that you are coming through for this event this Friday on Hip Hop's birthday, Hip Hop Karaoke, happening at Art Wino in Arlington, Virginia. All right. Again, that's happening Friday. Then on Saturday, you're going to come through the Lincoln Theater. Saturday, I believe show starts at 8 p.m. There's a long list of legendary hip hop artists from the DMV. Make sure you're there. It's going to be amazing. And then on Sunday, we're closing out with Fine Lines Paint Jam. That's going to be happening at the Bridge Spot that's 199 Virginia Avenue Southeast. So make sure to come through. It's going to be a really, really great time, a great weekend for hip hop culture right here in the DC area. So, and the last thing I wanted to remind you about in terms of releases, I be rapping and stuff, and I got an album out right now called Adultish. Please support if you can. It's now streaming on all platforms. You can also pick up physical merchandise right now exclusively on Bandcamp. Shout out to everyone who's been listening to the record so far. Shout out to all of the support has been crazy. I greatly appreciate it, man. We appreciate the love. And the last thing we wanted to give you heads up on, actually, I almost forgot. So we did have technical issues on last week's show with Opie Snow. So no worries. You might have noticed that the episode isn't available right now. We rescheduled with her. And so we will be re-recording episode 9 and then making that episode live once again so folks can check it out if you missed it. So definitely be on the lookout for that. We'll keep you posted for that. And shout out to everyone who's listening, listening to the audio podcast right now, or those of you who watched on YouTube. It is greatly appreciated. You want to close out with anything else?
Thank you all so much for a great season 4.
Yes.
Again, if you are just learning about us, please go check out. We had some phenomenal artists, as we always do, and we so look forward to preparing for season 5, which will be coming to you live and direct in 2024. But again, thank you to our supporters, for our newcomers, for those of you just joining us, and also for those veterans who have been with us since season 1. We so appreciate you. We're here. Shout out to WBL for their continued support of this program. We couldn't have done this without you all. And of course, for our supporters and our followers and our listeners, we thank you so much. Again, this is birthed from, showing artists, the industry, showing artists, those who are inspired artists, those who are just supporters of art or art lovers who want to know more about the various forms of art, whether it's visual artists or performing artists or arts administrators, just to learn more about the process. That's what this show is for, and that's what this show is about. And we try to do a great job in giving people variety of different artists. Again, most of these people are our friends that we've known for several years and our peers, and so this is our way of supporting and giving back to them as well. So again, if you like what you have heard and have seen live on YouTube, please be sure to support by liking and subscribing to the channel.
Yeah, and you can also donate if you ever feel moved to. Never, as I say on my channel, it's never required, but it's always appreciated.
Absolutely.
So if you ever want to support us, you can do so via Cash App. It's Sub Art and Music, but the $, it serves as the S. So, and then Venmo, Sub Art and Music as well, or paypal.me/substantial. But on that note, we're going to get all the way out the way, and we're going to enjoy the rest of our off season of artistry. And keep in mind, can I tell them how hard we work for them? We just came back off of vacay, literally a couple hours before this show started. But
it shows the love. It shows the love that we have.
We do, and we wanted to make sure we gave you a great show. So thank y'all so much for tuning in. We'll see you next season. Everybody, take care. Peace. Thanks for listening to Artistry, where art meets industry. Season 4 of Artistry is powered by Words, Beats, and Life. Visit www.wblinc.org to learn more. This podcast is produced by Substantial Art and Music. For more information, please visit www.subartandmusic.com. You can also follow us on social media at Sub Art and Music. Peace.